Well, as if Packers fans needed any more excitement surrounding Sunday's home opener, we've got more excitement. CBS's NFL Today show is coming to Green Bay, and they'll be broadcasting that day from Lambeau Field. And joining us now, studio analyst of the NFL Today, former Falcons quarterback Matt Ryan. Matt, thanks so much for taking time with us this morning. Want to start out with the trigger. What was it that made you and the staff decide that Green Bay was the place to be on this opening Sunday?
Well, listen, it's one of the great venues in all of the NFL. Lambeau Field, probably the most historical spot we have in our sport. You start with that, and it being on CBS, and for so long the NFC being heavy Fox centric, and we've got an opportunity to have our crew there in Lambeau. It's special. But then you talk about the matchup. You talk about the Detroit Lions going against the Green Bay Packers in division. High expectations for both. You throw in a trade on top of that, that's made it really, really interesting. We've got 100 different storylines we can talk about. So we're all very excited at CBS to be heading out to Wisconsin and kicking off the season in Green Bay. It's going to be a fantastic weekend.
You mentioned the trade. We all know what we're talking about here. That decision for you guys to come here was made long before the Micah Parsons trade happened. So does that scenario add a little bit more juice to your broadcast?
Yeah, sometimes you get very lucky, Tom. You know, in this industry, storylines happen to fall kind of right into your lap. And when, David Burson made the executive decision that we were going to go live from Green Bay week one, we had no idea. But it does add an extra element of excitement to see kind of all of the energy that's been around Micah Parsons showing up to Green Bay in this past week. So there's an added storyline there, which will be fantastic. But really, I mean, part of our show is showcasing how great the fan base is, the atmosphere outside the stadium, how great that's going to be, kind of the energy there, kickoff weekend, opening weekend. It's just going to be fantastic. So we weren't short for storylines, but certainly when the Micah trade came through, I think we all smiled at CBS.
I want to get back to the Micah Parsons in just a minute. First, though, your memories, your impressions of Green Bay. In your quarterbacking career, you've played at Lambeau a number of times. What are your takeaways from those games? Any particular memories?
Well, I go back to my first time ever going to Lambeau. I was a rookie. We played there either late September or early October, my rookie season, and that was back in 2008. So it was Aaron Rodgers' first year as starting quarterback of the Green Bay Packers. We got to go up there as my first year starting, and just taking it all in, right? Going up there and kind of, seeing the neighborhood as you're driving in, and then the stadium kind of appears out of nowhere. Being in that locker room, walking down the long hallway from the visitor locker room all the way down the steps, kind of out of that tunnel and coming out and kind of seeing the shrine that is Lambeau Field. That's kind of my overarching memory. And then, having played up there a bunch of times, it just never got old. I think back to all the times I played there, some of the good battles we had, against Aaron and against Green Bay. It never got old. It was always, just a special place to play. And then, I had a chance to play there. I can't remember if it was a Sunday night game or a Monday night game during COVID, where we played there, and the stadium was completely empty. And it was an eerie scene. It really was. Playing there on a beautiful night, playing against the Packers on a completely empty Lambeau Field. I've had both ends of the spectrum, packed games, cold games, and empty games there. And I prefer it packed, and I'm glad it's going to be packed on Sunday afternoon.
So you've experienced Lambeau as not just a player, also now as a broadcaster. In your mind, what is it about Lambeau that makes it so special?
Well, I think it's the history, number one, right? You talk about all of the great players in Packers history and really in NFL history that have all played in that same venue. And I think that makes it, number one, so special from a historical standpoint. But I think the fan base too, right? The tailgates that you drive through driving in the neighborhood surrounding Lambeau, the fans that you see out there hours before games. When it's beautiful weather, just the atmosphere inside. When it's miserable weather, the atmosphere inside. You go from lots of green and yellow when it's beautiful, like we're going to have on Sunday afternoon, to your hunting gear, when it's cold and the camos all over the place in the stadium. There's just a vibe. There's an energy to it that makes it special. So I think it's the combination of an incredible fan base on top of all of the history that has taken place in that stadium. It makes it incredibly special.
Now, if anybody knows the quarterback position, it is you. And we've got a quarterback, Jordan Love, going into his third season as a starter. Your thoughts on what you've seen of Jordan Love?
Well, I think this is the year, right? Like this is the year, at least in my career, that I felt like things started to come together. I had my rookie season, my first season playing. You're kind of keeping your head above water and trying to figure things out as you go. I had some ups and downs in my second year, much like Jordan. I dealt with injuries in my second year starting. I had some turf toe that popped up and had to deal with that through it. And I know Jordan dealing with the knee, the groin last year. It was difficult for him. But I see a talented player, really talented player, great arm strength, very good accuracy. When he keeps his feet consistent, his lower half and his footwork consistent, I think he delivers it about as well as anybody. And I really think he's going to have a great season. You talk about the addition of Matthew Golden at the wide receiver position. I used to love that, right? When we would draft a guy early, we had a wide receiver coming in, another tool in your toolkit to be able to go out there and add to what I think is a really deep wide receiver unit. I know Christian Watson is still on the pup list and physically unable to perform, but I think it's a deep group. And I think Jordan, for this team to go where it wants to go, I think he's got to take that next step. He's got to become one of the bona fide best starting quarterbacks in the league. And I think he can do that. Matt LaFleur is a really good quarterback teacher, and he's got good surroundings around him. I think this is a year I think you could really see him explode.
Back to Micah Parsons. What does he bring to the table for the Packers?
Well, he's one of the absolute best pass rushers in the league, and I think you bring a level of just explosiveness. Particularly, you talk about third downs, right? Getting off the field, getting after the passer on third downs. I think he's a guy that if I were game planning against him, most of my week is figuring out how we're going to protect him, right? And so he creates dynamics for opposing teams that last all week. It's not just third downs. It's not just pass rush opportunities. It's how you game plan and kind of all of the stuff that you have to put together during the course of the week to get ready. He's a nightmare from that standpoint. So I really think he's a nice piece. As you talk about getting late in the year too, in Lambeau, going against the teams they have to go against in division, you want to get Jared Goff on his back. You don't want to give him time to stand back there and deliver the football. And when you add a piece like Micah to that, it's gonna be fun to watch. And it reminds me, I know people have said this, but it reminds me a lot of the additions of great defensive players like Reggie White or Charles Woodson. In some of those Super Bowl runs that they had, they went out and they got a dynamic player on the defensive side of the ball, and it feels a lot like that in Green Bay right now.
As a result of this Parsons deal, lots of talk, as you can imagine, about the Super Bowl in Green Bay. But as any coach will tell you, one player does not make a team. But can his presence give the Packers that little Super Bowl push, that little edge?
Well, you're right. One player doesn't make the team, but the addition of one player to a good roster, changes things. And I think, it really puts them in position uh, to have dynamic players at the key spots, right? You talk about the quarterback position, you talk about the edge rushers getting after it. They've got really dynamic players at those positions, and then you build the depth around that. To me, it makes them very, very intriguing. And then they want to get back on top of the NFC North, right? A place that they stayed for so long. You look in division and you see a team like Detroit that has that quarterback position solidified. They have that edge rusher and Aiden Hutchinson solidified. You got to keep up with that, right? If you want to get back on top, you got to keep up with that. And I think, that entered into their mind space as they went ahead and made that trade.
All right, game today. Seems Detroit has had our number 6 out of the past 7 meetings. Even though this is just week 1, do you get the sense this game almost has a playoff feel to it?
Well, I don't know about playoff, but they all are important, particularly in division, right? As as you kind of get through the season, you realize the importance of those early divisional games too. They kind of count one and a half. And if you can kind of get out to a jump start and get a lead in the division, I think that helps so much. We talk about tiebreakers, you talk about all those things at the end of the year. So I think it's going to have an extra feel to it. Opening weekend always has that feel, but opening weekend, divisional games, I always felt like had a little bit extra juice to it. We played when I was with Atlanta against New Orleans, which was one of our big rivals, and it always felt different when you played them in the season or season opener. So I think it's going to feel very much, that way. Those division games, the opening week off, the opening weekend, there's just a different level of excitement to it.
Matt, for you, how has the transition been going from the field to the broadcast booth?
Part of me still wishes I was on the field. There's no doubt about that, right? The energy you feel, like, being out there around the stadium and feeling that. There's nothing you can recreate that as that former player. You just get that energy going. But it's been incredible for me to kind of transition, number one into the booth, and then move into the studio last year to be around guys like Bill Cowher, James Brown, Nate Burleson, to be able to talk to our crews that are live in the game. It's been special. I love this game. This game has been very good to me, and I feel like as former players and as analysts, we're stewards for the game moving forward. And so I'm very lucky to have the seat that I have on the show that I am on, and very lucky to be a part of the CBS team.
All right, the NFL Today on CBS, it is on our time from 11 to noon. That's not all you're doing, though. Tell me about this NFL Today Plus, your streaming service. What's that all about?
I'm excited, Tom. You know it. The world is there's all kinds of different platforms for us to be able to get out there. And the NFL Today Plus is streaming live on Paramount Plus on Sunday morning Central Time. It'll be 9 to 11 on the East Coast, 10 to noon. But it is an extension of our show, the NFL Today. But it's 2 hours of live streaming on Paramount Plus. I get to work with Antonio Pierce. I get to work with Kyle Long, Amanda Guerra. It's a very different atmosphere. It's kind of podcast meets pregame show, and it'll be an open forum for us to talk at greater length about different, topics that are coming up week to week. I'm excited to be able to do it. I'm excited to try something new. I give CBS and Paramount a lot of credit for going in this direction. It's going to be something that's exciting. I encourage anybody to go ahead, stream it live, and check us out on Sunday mornings.
Matt Ryan of the NFL Today, it has been a pleasure. We appreciate your time, my friend.
Tom, thank you very much.
All right, enjoy your time in Green Bay.
Thank you.